All right, I'm back in the shop today. I got my dad talked into going ahead and trying to get this core support stuck into the front of the car. What we got is our brand new Glasstek hood up there, our cowl piece, and we've got a front bumper as well. It's in the backyard. But the way that the Oldsmobile is shaped, you can see we've got this huge gap in between the core support and the front of the grille. So I'd either have to cantilever something over really far to pick up our front hood pins, or our Rhodes core support over there shoots a line straight from this bolt hole to this bolt hole, and then I'll have a much shorter bracket and a little bit longer one to come off of here. The problem is our giant radiator. So our radiator's like 26 inches wide and almost 20 inches tall, and our Rhodes core support is set up for probably a 24 by 16 radiator. It's much smaller. So what we're gonna have to do is make kind of a little J hook, so that's like a section of our tube will come off of there with a bent piece of strap. I'll add a diagonal brace to it, and then I'll probably even put another diagonal brace up to the tube. That way it's just a little bit stiffer. So anyways, I'm starting to take off everything attached to the core support. So far I've got all of the factory hood latch bucket out, and I'm about to drain our cooling system so that I don't make a huge mess. This radiator doesn't have a petcock on it, so I'll show you guys my little trick for that. It's basically just a piece of tubing here, fill it up with a garden hose so you don't have to siphon it by your mouth, and I'm going to drain it into a bucket. So I'll set up some time lapses here, and we'll get started on seeing if we can get this big old core support out of there. Alright, well, overall, that went pretty well. We got the stock core support out of there. We had to cut it in half to get it out, so we're pretty much committed to this new one now. But I think this Rhodes core support fits damn good for what it is. It's made to fit a Nova, but we're running an Oldsmobile. So you can see the headlight buckets, supports. We're gonna cut those off. We kind of thought about leaving this strap, but we don't really need it for anything, and if we have to add another one for something else, we can. It seems to line up pretty well with that factory little tray, even on the Oldsmobile, but like I said, we don't need those headlight supports, so we'll cut them off. It's moved forward a bunch, so we get quite a bit more room for our radiator and fan setup. So if we ever do end up with a blower motor in this thing, we'll have lots of room in front of it. I think this core support has to weigh half of what our factory one is, so maybe we'll weigh that later on today. But anyways, I think we'll probably end up taking it back out, then we can start laying out our radiator on it and seeing how we're going to make that fit. Okay, time for a little more of my favorite pastime activity of weighing everything I pull off the car. Wow, that's heavier than I thought. So all the nuts and bolts that held stuff onto the core support, along with the hood latch bucket, whatever the hell you want to call it, 4 pounds, 5.2 ounces. So there's 4 pounds. Now, got my supervisor over here, Brandy. Half of a core support. Let's see if I can balance this on here somehow. Maybe. Kind of pushing on it to keep it upright, but that is 8 pounds, call it 10 ounces. Sure, 8 pounds, 10 ounces there. Side number 1. Side number 2. £8, 8 ounces. Damn, 16 pounds of core support. Almost 17 pounds of core support. What are you up to, Brandy Pup? Who is that? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is that tuk-tuk? What's there? Supervisors. Supervising. Okay, so we got the grill or the hood sitting in place. It fits pretty good overall, really, for being an aftermarket part. It looks like it might have a little bit of a hump right through here, but it's hard to say until we get our quick latches mounted up. But hopefully, if GoPro will adjust, you can see it's got this fat part here that lines up fairly well underneath our core support. And let me bring you under here. What we're going to do is we'll drill our holes through our hood first, and then I think drop like a plumb bob through there, and then I can measure off of our core support to where it goes, and then I'll have a laser cut tab cut out for us, and we can break those at work, or maybe have Sin break them for us, and then we can weld them in place, and our quick latches will hopefully hold the hood down. We're going to do 4 in the front and 2 at the back, and then we've got a kind of a factory style hood bumper to go in the middle of the back just to keep the hood from sagging in the back. But I think we'll be pretty good overall once we get 6 quick latches in place. We went with the 3/8 diameter ones because the 1/2 inch ones are freaking expensive and the 1/4 inch ones look kind of puny. But overall, I think we got quite a bit of room in here. Well, we've got our radiator sitting on our core support, and we're thinking about a 6-inch strap bent down and then up. Should be able to support a radiator. So far, my dad's kind of convinced me to leave these on and not cut them off for the extra 7 ounces I'd save. They'll help keep our fenders from rattling while we're idling. What else? We got a little tab. We can make little tabs to support the top of the radiator, basically how it used to sit. Overall, it doesn't seem like it's going to be as tough of a fit as we thought. We're basically going to take and make a strap that'll come down there and then up and then back up, and we'll insulate that with a little bit of rubber. And here's kind of our drawing of what we're going to try and make.
One eternity later.
Alright, it's about a week later. We've had a chance to make up some brackets for the radiator, but we've got to get them fitted up. So they'll end up getting angle cut and welded to the radiator support. Got the radiator dug out of the backyard. It's cold and rainy today, so we've got Mr. Heater going on, and we're about to take the core support back out, set the radiator on it, and then see how this looks like it's going to fit. We're going to have to make up a couple more tabs to come off of here to support the sides of the radiator. We're going to go ahead and reuse these existing tabs that have been on there for probably 20 years. So that'll make that pretty easy. All we'll have to do is cut off a straight tab, drill a hole in it. And I need to do a little more practice on my TIG welding before I start welding this stuff on there because I suck. But I got some more filler rod the other day, and hopefully that cleans up the welds a little bit. So we'll get back to you in a bit. Alright, so we got all this mocked up. The radiator is centered to the best of our abilities on our core support. I'm going to come in here and put one big tack and one big tack, and then hopefully that'll hold our brackets in place so I can pull the radiator back out, mark them to cut, and then cut them and finish weld them. Probably mock it up one more time. I have a habit of I lean really hard and then I can't scoot, and then it scoots all at once. I gotta get in the habit of like a light touch, and I don't know, I'm not relaxed, so it's tricky. Because when I first sat down and then I leaned and then I couldn't scoot, and then it moved a whole bunch all at once, so I need to learn how to relax while I weld.
Yeah, I don't like the way you're holding that either.
Well, I'm trying to keep it from dragging. Because when it drags across my leg, then that makes it tough too, because you're pulling against... I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I will openly admit that. But I have a feeling that that's not going anywhere. I know on that one I got my torch height too much. I had too much arc length for a while, but that's not miserable. Again, it certainly ain't going nowhere. Not quite ready to roll up my roll cage. It's going to protect me in a crash yet, but
The guy that welded it wasn't sober half the time he welded it anyway.
I know, but I feel a lot more confident with a MIG gun than I do a TIG gun, and I don't know shit about MIG. So I think these are probably a little hot, probably a little too much arc length, but for radiator support, I don't think it's going anywhere. This one's a little embarrassing. You don't get to see that one. This one's less embarrassing. Alright, quick little update in the middle of this here. We've got all our brackets welded on for the radiator, and now we're starting on getting some tabs mounted for the transcooler. I have a feeling that this tube was not vented because it kept blowing out on me and making kind of a goddamn mess. I finally got one half-ass decent weld, even though it took me like 2 tries. But drilling that little bitty air hole right there seemed to make a big difference. So we've got one more tab we've got to mount down here, about like this. Sorry, terrible at camera, I'm watching what I'm doing. But we'll mount another one here, and then that'll be our third point that we're going to use to mount our transcooler. But we got to get it back in the car and then mock our transcooler up. Got to mark a couple of holes in these guys, and then we'll get an idea of how long this one needs to be. Okay, so as my dad says here, it looks like a porcupine now, but we've got pretty much all the tabs except for the hood pin tabs welded on. We've got the radiator tabs and the transcooler tabs on there. But now we've decided to finish up the cowl panel, get it final mounted, adjusted and everything, and then start working on our rear hood pins first, and our hood supports we're going to add in the middle just to make sure that the arch of the hood is correct. And then after we've got the rear mounting point set, we can start to figure out where our front hood pins are going to sit, which I'd kind of like them to line up with the grill openings to an extent. That way it's kind of symmetrical to something. We're going to have 2 in the middle and then 1 on the outside. So that's kind of where we're at next. We've already got the cowl panel's pretty close. We've got some nut certs already mounted under there, but we have to poke a hole through this wiper opening and get our fuel pressure gauge mounted back up. And we've got to notch this out and figure out how we're going to mount our little hood supports. So that's what's next.
Right on both of them?
I think it's right. So I came up with a little trick here. I made me a masking tape template. I put it onto here on the center line of the old cowl panel to mark our holes for our bracket to mount our fuel pressure gauge. And then I just stuck it on the new one, drilled the holes. And so far, I haven't fit it, so it's perfect. I like it. Probably a little farther.
Yeah. I don't know, or do we need those tighter?
I mean, that's gonna span, you know, because all we're trying to do is keep the hood from sagging, so
hopefully,
it isn't gonna sag that much between here and here.
Hopefully we can get a somewhere here and here.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're working on is we've got 17-inch measurement from here to these little dots, and that's where we're gonna put those hood supports you saw on the bottom side of the hood. And we got one on each side, but we've got to notch out this fiberglass to about this line, this lump, and then we can drill and put a nutsert into our cowl, firewall, cowl, whatever it is. I think that's gonna work. All right, I'm gonna try and wrap this video up. We've got our cowl panel mounted, or at least mocked up in place. We went ahead and put some nutserts in for our rear hood supports so that can't sag in the middle. Next, we've got to figure out where we want to mount our quick latches in the back. There's a couple of holes that look like they might work out pretty good on the firewall already, and we'll see if we can use those or not. And then up front, we're going to mount 2 quick latches on each side. These are the 3/8 version. And up under here, we've got to make up a bracket or a tab to come off of the core support. And I'm going to try and draw that up in CAD and get Sin-Cut Sin to make me up one of them for each side. I'll probably have them slot the holes so we can adjust forward and back a little bit wherever these end up falling. And then I'm also going to have them cut me a set of washers because the unthreaded portion of this is a very fat amount, and I have a feeling that we're not going to have very much thread engagement once we drill our hole through our hood. So I'll get some washers cut for that, and then we can drill our pilot holes and get a measurement maybe sometime this week for our tabs that I've got to draw up. But overall, we're getting a little bit closer. We're making some progress, and I think that might be about it for this video. I'll see you guys next time. No complaints. Oh shit, my dog's chasing the cat. And the chase is over. Get over here, Duke. Come on. Shitheads. Get back in your yard. Bad dogs. Duke, you go get in that yard. Bad dog.